What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing good. I thought I would talk about kind of price, price in knives, value. I don't know where you kind of draw the line on what you're willing to spend, which probably changes, to be honest. But just kind of look at these various knives. I've kind of got a different running um, of prices here, and thought I would just kind of chat with you guys for a bit. So. We've got a Sencut, Spyderco, Benchmade, a Chris Reeve Knives, and a Koenig. And I'm going to use this as kind of the stepping ladder as we go through this. So let's start here with the Sencut. So this was actually given to me as a gift. My wife purchased a knife for me for Christmas. It was actually this guy. However, she was kind of sneaky, and she gave me the knife to open, and I opened it, and this is what it was. And then she informed me that no, this wasn't actually the knife. She actually got me another one, and inside that box was this guy here. So that's where I got this. That's how I got it. This is Sencut. This is kind of this is a weird. I don't quite understand what they're doing, but basically you have WE knives out of China that are making top end knives, very expensive. I wouldn't say top end. I would say very high end knives, $200 price range, and they have a more budget friendly version called Civivi, and Civivi make knives in the $60 to $100 range. And they're great knives as well. And then now they've come out with a more budget version called Sencut. Again, I don't understand it, but I had a Civivi and I now have the Sencut. And to be honest, the Civivi and the Sencut seem about the same quality to me. They're probably Civivi knives that they're just put a different label on. I don't know. I have no idea. But fit and finish is just fine. This was, I think, like a $40 knife. It comes with a deep carry pocket clip. Very nice, fun action liner lock. It's CR18, no, 9CR18 MOV for the steel on this guy. Kind of has a little bit of a stone-washed look. It's pretty cool. And, I mean, at the end of the day, $40, a Sencut or a Civivi or anything in that price range, this is a perfectly fine knife. This is, you're getting more knife than the average person is going to need. And I know there are people out there that would say that they have to have stronger knives, but I do come from a more relaxed use case on my knives, whereas this, honestly, this little Dragonfly could serve me on my EDC needs perfectly fine. From the last 3 years of what I needed out of a knife, this is plenty of knife for me, if I were honest. So take that with a grain of salt as I'm going through this. But so yeah, this is a great little knife for $40, and there's not much, not much bad to say here. So that's kind of at the entry point. I think if you get under $40, I don't know, I kind of like to stay out of the $10 to $20 knife range. I have a little more pride in my knife collecting than that keeps me out of the Walmart gas station stuff. But again, if that's what you can afford, then that's fine. This is just my personal preference and where I am in my knife collecting. So moving on up, I obviously got the Dragonfly here. Spyderco, this was the 60, 65-ish range, maybe. Not a huge jump in price. Again, there's, not much bad about this. This is just a great everyday knife. It's VG10 steel. So you get a slightly different steel there. You get super lightweight. It's got the Spyderco emblem. So you're buying a Spyderco. This is a name brand that has been out there and has made knives for the EDC community for years, and they're a trusted brand. So you're getting a well-known quality knife in Spyderco and in that price range. Is this knife infinitely better than this knife? Maybe if you're talking steel, if you start comparing that kind of thing. But I mean, they're both very functional tools. You know, they look different, so people are gonna like one over the other based on looks. But there's nothing crazy about this other than this is super light. That makes it infinitely better than running this, you know. In fact, between the two, the clip on this guy is a deep carry, which I like a lot. So, you know, there you go. You're moving up the ladder. Slightly different steel there. Bigger name brand. So, continuing, you've got Benchmade. A lot of people know Benchmade. They've been in the business a long time, just like Spyderco. So you have a big company behind this knife. You've also got S30V, which is a much better steel than either of those two. You've got the axis lock. You've got the warranty behind Benchmade. You know, I actually put this clip on here. This was not original, but this is a Benchmade deep carry clip. So, you know, you're stepping up into the $100 range, 120, you know, you're getting, in my opinion, at that $100 to $150 range, maybe 200, depends on if you want to get maybe fancier, but in that range of 100, 150, you're getting all the knife that you could ever really need, and not just as far as a cutting tool, but you're getting into the companies that are big names. You're getting into good steels. You're getting into better actions. You know, for $150, you can pretty much get whatever you want that will serve you well without being over the top. I think once you push 200 in a knife, that 150, 200 range, now you're looking at a knife for totally different reasons other than function and fit and finish and that kind of thing. So this is kind of that range of, it's actually in the middle. I didn't plan that, but that's kind of that range of great quality. You can get things like the Paramilitary 2, stuff like that in that, you know, sub 200, you know, range. So I think this is a sweet spot. I think a lot of people can get more than what they want in this area, in this price range. But that doesn't diminish this kind of a knife either. This is still, you could use this every day and be perfectly fine. Now, will it last as long? I don't know. I'm not hard using any of my knives. And like I said, in my daily life, this is all the knife I need. So take that with a grain of salt. If you're, you know, beating up knives and you may need a knife that is better made and stronger, and you may need to spend a little more to get that. But for the average Joe that just wants a pocket knife, you know, there's nothing wrong with these knives down in the $40 range. From companies that I think are, you know, in the game. If you talk to anybody in the EDC community, you read any of the forums, you know, if they're talking about these brands, Civivi, Syncut, or whatever, Ontario, the Rat Model 1, Model 2, you know, any of those companies that are making knives that the community are talking about, they're going to be perfectly fine. They're going to do what you need them to do. So that's kind of moving up. And I think this, again, 150, 200 is kind of, you know, sub 200 is where you get that sweet spot where you can get a good steel, you can get a great company, you can get a great design, and you can pretty much find, you know, a lot of what you want there. Moving on up, this is going to fall in that $400 range. I think the Sebenza 31 is like $375, but then you got tax and whatever. So I'm going to say $400 range. Now you start getting into something beyond a cutting tool. You know, you're not looking at, okay, steel and performance and usability, and you're getting into manufacturing, and you're getting into the, you know, how much of the human factor is into making the knives. You're getting into the titanium and some of that stuff. You know, this is the small Sebenza 31 and S35, I believe S35 as well. And, you know, so steel wise, you're really not getting anything. Function, you're really not getting anything. This will perform as this will. I mean, people might argue, but for me personally, this is, you know, I'm not getting anything function wise out of this that I wouldn't get from here and or any of these really. So again, you're paying for the company and you're paying for where they're made. This is made in the US, and this is made by a smaller company. This is not a mass-produced knife. There's a lot of handwork that goes into these knives just throughout the machining process. You know, they're you know, machining out these titanium scales and blades, and there's just a lot of fit and finish, and there's a lot of the human that's into making this knife. This isn't pushed through a factory and just kind of zipped together. Not zipped as in just zip tied, but just thrown together as you might throw these together. These are not made as quickly. They're take longer to get. In fact, if you order direct from Chris Reeves, you're looking at a 9-month wait. So you're paying for that that human element, which, you know, if you're a knife person, if you're a knife enthusiast, then that is an appeal. The fit and finish, the level of tolerances, the actions, just everything about this is definitely above these knives, and that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for function, in my opinion. You know, this gives you a sense of pride and ownership, and this for someone might also be give them a sense of pride and ownership just at this level. And that's where everybody is different. You know, your means dictate what you can afford, and you know, there's nothing wrong if the $60 Spyderco is your pride and joy, and I was in that realm as well. Spyderco Delica was my first real knife that I carried and I liked, and you know, it's taken several years before I've, you know, moved throughout the knife ranges. And there are people, you know, $1,000 knives are nothing. You know, they're looking at the $5,000-$6,000 custom knives, and I can't even imagine that. And that's, you kind of draw a line to where it's like, yeah, I'm not interested in the extra nuances you get beyond this price point. You know, there may be people that say, hey, being the handcrafting and the fit and finish and the uniqueness and the value you get from owning something that is harder to come by and in that $400 range, it's not worth it. Like it's not worth the price jump, you know, from something like this to something like this. For me, as a knife enthusiast, as a gear lover, as somebody who enjoys carrying things and who doesn't want to carry junk, I do value and really enjoy owning something like this. You know, this isn't in everybody's pocket, you know, at the grocery store. This is going to be something that just kind of sets you apart a little bit, which is kind of cool for me. And that's, again, everybody's slightly different. So, you know, this is, to be honest, this was kind of a grail knife that I just put off for a long time. I really think the Sebenza fills all of the niches. It gives you that exclusivity. It gives you the handmade, the fit and finish. It gives you this beautiful classic knife. I mean, they've been making this basic knife, and it's been tweaked slightly throughout the years, but by and large, they've been making this knife for over 20 some years, maybe over 25 years, and they keep making this exact same knife because it just never goes out of style. And it's just an icon in the knife industry. And so for me, this is kind of a sweet spot in knives, is the Sebenza. So moving up, we have Koenig knives. You can see right there. This is the Koenig Eris. I did overpay for this by about $100 to get one of the latest Gen 4 Batch 4 drops. However, it is, this will take roughly $750-ish. I paid $8 or $850, I can't remember. And sold some stuff to help cover that. But, to be honest, there's not a lot of difference in these two, as well as my Medford Micro Praetorian T. If you watch that video, once you get into the 4 to 8, even into that $1,000 range, I don't think there's a huge difference in the knives. At that point, you're paying based on that maker and what they value their knife. Both of these are actually made in Idaho. That's kind of cool. Both of these are CNC machined. Both are titanium. Both are very high-end steels. This is S30 or 35 yen. I should know that, and I don't. This is M390. This is a pretty high-end steel, one of the top steels. So again, between these two at 400 and let's say 750, you're not getting a lot, even by my standards. Like the fit and finish, the handwork, the human factor, it's in both of these knives. The Koenig is just a more expensive knife, and so like I said, there's not a lot of difference between this, and I think the Sebenza is kind of that entry, that doorway for me into everything else up here in the high end. Like this is where you start getting the made in the US, the hand finishing, and so anything beyond that is gonna start diminishing on the return for me. This is kind of that peak, that $400, that Sebenza. That's kind of the peak for me. I had a Grimsmo Knives Norseman, and I paid $950 for that, and I had it anodized, and so I was looking at $1,000 knife, and that $1,000 knife and the Koenig Eris kind of fell in that same range where the what you got over this was an even more of a work of art. You got a better you started getting into the drop shut actions. Chris Reeve knives are meant to be used. They're not really chasing the action, the drop shuttiness of knives on bearings. And Koenig and Grimsmo and they put a lot of effort into their tolerances and their machining so that they can produce knives that have good detents, solid lockup, and then just fall shut. And you start paying for that action in some of these higher end knives. And between the Norseman and the Koenig, I ended up selling the Norseman. It was a design choice. There's nothing crazy different about Grimsmo and Koenig. They're young guys making awesome knives and spending tons and tons of time researching and just doing a phenomenal job. And so it really comes down to personal preference and design and style and which maker you enjoy. For me, the Grimsmo brothers, being in Canada, was cool, but if they ever did need to send your knife back, you gotta start having to deal with shipping and that kind of thing. And living in the US, I do enjoy a knife that's made right here. So also the blade shape of my Norseman and the blade shape of the Koenig just super different, and I really like this beautifully classic blade drop point here. So, you know, it was a matter of, there we go. It was a matter of me selling one piece of art for another piece of art at that $1,000, $800 range. You know, anything above this, in my opinion, is where I don't really see value at my current stage. You know, there was a time where I was, you know, anything over the $100 range, like you know, not there. And now I'm kind of in the Sebenza as being kind of that peak, and anything over that peak is just marginally better in my opinion. And you know, it really comes down to action. If you want a drop shut action. So again, everybody has their own range, and this is kind of just how I lay out my knives. I enjoy my knives that are $40, and I have no issues with them. I don't often carry them just because part of what I enjoy in EDC is not just having a knife. I hardly ever have to use a knife on a day-to-day basis. That's just a fact. So, you know, for me, it's the enjoyment in carrying the knife and owning the knife, and, you know, just the level of satisfaction and fun you get out of that. And so all of these are just a good representation for me. Some people, like I said, $2,000 on a custom knife, they can do that, and they see a value in that, you know, even more custom than this. You know, these are handmade knives. You know, this is still machined. This has got a lot of machine work done to it. And, you know, you start getting into the hand finishing of the scales and the etching. I mean, you get crazy amount of human detail, and the price goes up. And I think, you know, I personally like the human element a lot. I like knowing that people are still in the equation in a day and age where it's all about making money and cutting people out. You know, get a machine to do it, get rid of people, and pump out a product and make money. And that's kind of, you know, where so much of the industries are going nowadays. You know, and that's why I value this, and that's why I'm willing to spend $400 on a Sebenza, because it's still, you know, the small company making knives and, you know, doing their job that they've been doing for years. And that's not to say Spyderco and Benchmade and Sencut are you know, terrible brands because they're more mass produced. That's where that value comes in for me. You know, and the story behind the Koenig family and how he started, Bill Koenig, how he started his brand, and just, you know, how he got to where he is really cool. Grimsmo is the same thing. Watching their history on YouTube and following the 8 years in making the Norseman and making it what it was when I bought mine, you know, that was just very cool, and I valued that in owning that knife. And so owning that, just, you owned a piece of that history and a piece of that person's, you know, career. And I value that. Some people don't value that kind of thing. They simply want a utilitarian tool. And so they're perfectly fine with, you know, the $100 Benchmade, Spyderco, or whatever else is in this range. So anyway, I guess that kind of is just a quick summary of kind of where I fall. If I had to do it, I would say this is kind of how it divides. If you have this great line that I have, you've got the everyday knives, the knives that you can get that are, there's the human in it, but it's more just they're making this knife, and that's kind of, they're just producing these knives and selling them. And then you've got the knives that are have the human detail and the hand finishing of pieces and just the craftsmanship that goes into them. And that's the great divide at that $300-$400 range, in my opinion. And in my collection now, there's so many other knives out there that I don't own, and you might get hand finishing you know, below the $200 mark that I just don't know about, but from the ones I've owned, and this is kind of how it falls. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. Just my current progression that's subject to change as you grow in the EDC hobby. You know, you may start out with this as your top end knife, and you can't imagine going up to this, and that's totally a reality. And then one day you end up with a Sebenza, and you're like, whoa, how'd I get here? So hope it was interesting. If you have any questions, comments, or whatever, it's always fun to see what people see, and sometimes you never know what people are going to say. But there you go. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great rest of... Whoa! Won't stand up there. That one doesn't stand up on its clip. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later.